As a premier community in Hampton Roads, James City County strives to maintain a high quality of life for all citizens through sound fiscal management and legislative actions. In an ongoing effort to increase transparency, your Board of Supervisors holds public meetings to garner citizen input before making important decisions. Here is tonight's meeting agenda. Stay tuned. The Board of Supervisors meeting will begin shortly.
Call this meeting of the Board, James City County Board of Supervisors to order. Mr. Porter, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Starting on my far right is Mr. McGlennon. He
Here.
represents the Roberts District. Next is Ms. Sadler,
Here.
represents the Stonehouse District. Mr. Hipple
Here.
represents Powhatan District. And sitting in as chair tonight is Mr. Eisenhower, represents the Jamestown District. Ms. Larson is unable to be with us tonight. She had to be out of town.
Okay, and I'm here. Okay. All righty. We have a young man in the audience this evening who's going to lead us in the pledge after a moment of silence. And he is from the Berkeley District. Since Ms. Larson's not here, I will stand in for her and do the introduction. Tonight's pledge will be led by Jamie Henderson II. This fall, he will be a freshman at Jamestown High School. Jamie enjoys theater, comics, and computer animation. He is a member of the International Thespian Society and the Distinguished Gentleman. Jamie is a youth volunteer for the Parks and Recreation Department. Jamie, after a moment of silence, if you'd lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
If you'd come up, I would present you with this little certificate and a county pin. And thank you very much for leading us tonight. Okay. The next thing on our calendar is public comment, and I have several sheets. First, we have Mr. Jay Everson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board. Jay Everson, 103 Branscombe Boulevard. This is kind of on the lighter side, if you will. Back in 1986 or so, I was the manager of that chicken store down in the city, which is now the Thai Bangkok restaurant. And we had a Friday night. We'd had some trouble in the last couple of weeks before that with our cash control. And we'd had to crack down on it. And Friday, closed the business. Everything was perfect. We were like a couple dollars off on record sales. And I'm very excited. Labor cost was good. And so Monday morning rolls around. I'm in the office minding my own business. And the phone rings. It's Crestar Bank. You're $21 short. I said, $21 short? That's the deposit I made. Well, I knew that come 2 o'clock they were going to sweep the bank, so I said, I'll bring the money over. I said, by the way, what's $21? I don't get it. Well, you took a Canadian traveler's check, and back then, it was like worth nothing. And you're probably thinking, what the heck does this have to do with James City County? Well, I brought you something for you to look at. I do want this back, because this is kind of neat. If I could pass this around. Back on Sunday afternoon, the 24th of June, my wife and I went to Chickahominy Park to go swimming. Now, we're seasoned citizens, and we're James City County residents. It's $6. I had 2 20s and 3 1s. So I gave the person there the 20, and they dutifully gave me back a $10 bill and 4 1s. After we got done swimming, my wife has these little things for gas discount out there at Harris Teeter, right up here. Mm-hmm. She says, I'm going to go get some gas, and I forgot to buy bottled water. And don't worry, those caps go in the trash, and the bottle goes into the recycling. I don't do anything. The Everson household doesn't mess up fish life. So I go there, I get the water, it's $5.41. I had those 4 1s, I also had 3, but the way I put it in my wallet, I pulled out the 4. First one goes in, no problem. The second one was a little funky, but I took it. I couldn't believe it. Third one, which you just saw, kept kicking back. I was like, look at this, 3 times it kicked back. I said, boy, this bill looks brand new. Then I looked at it, and as you can see, instead of the father of our country, it's got Santa Claus. And I said, holy mackerels. So I finished up, I got out of there, and I said, goodness me, I can't believe somebody out there at Chickahominy Park gave me Santa Claus. So I left, we went home. Well, Tuesday, I had to be in Richmond, followed up by appointment in Petersburg. I had a gap in my schedule. I tried desperately to fill it, but no success. Well, it turns out the Secret Service office is in Midlothian. So I took my dollar bill down there, and you get in there, it's a normal office until you walk in. It's bulletproof glass and, a keypad, and it's got 4 deadbolt locks, and can I help you? And I showed a dollar bill, which they all proceeded to laugh. So the one lady comes out, and she says, that's legal tender. That's been glued on. But we had to get a specialist. So they take it around, and this lady, she comes back in a few minutes, we're going to give you a 1604. That's what the form is. A 1604, you take to your bank or any bank, and it tells them that that's real money, and they will exchange it. Well, for $1, I'm not going to do it. Now, if it's $100, I don't think I'd be standing here with this. They're right here. The reason I bring this up is, just like a Kentucky Fried Chicken, or any place where you handle a lot of cash, you find over time people get a little sloppy. And it seems to me it might make sense to alert people, because I can tell you, I happened to be in the line on Wednesday after that in Subway over in Monticello. And something was said, and I said, geez, I got a dollar bill with a Santa Claus. The guy says, we had some $20 bill come through here the other day, similarly situated. And I told the guy, we can't take this. Are you crazy? The guy says, there's nothing wrong with that dollar. And he says, well, George Washington or whoever is who's on the 20? Whoever's on the 20. I don't see many of those. So anyway, that's why I brought it. I just thought you guys could charge out of my money. I got this from your Chickahominy Park.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. The next speaker is Mr. Rob Till.
Recognizing me. This is my first visit here. I'm a Grove resident of 35 years. By the way, Ms. Sadler, Mandy Doggett would want me to say hello to you. And thank you, John, for representing our Grove area, and God bless you for your interest there. And Mr. Hipple, sir, I wonder where you part. I just met Heidi Meadows. Did you help with the community garden in Grove 4 years ago through St. Bede's? I didn't know you. You must have had a sun hat on, but now I know you better. I invite you all back. I'm going to leave these cards here for each of you to pick one up of. Ready. And please arrange a tour and see what we're doing here in Grove. There's many, many good people. We're getting a lot of press recognition, and I'm certain that you're aware of that. And I want to invite you to the garden. I want to invite you to, on Wednesday, our Board of Directors meeting, which has grown from Board of Directors meeting to a little gathering with some food and some various people, and perhaps a delegate or state senator, as well as their secretaries, etc. Almost anybody can show up. But Pastor Petaway will be here from a church I'm helping establish in Hampton, a community garden, and people from your end of the neighborhood, Miss Sadler. So thank you again for allowing me to speak. I want to also say that at 6:30 that particular night of the 18th until 6:50, roughly a 20-minute window, if you have a minute just to be aware of this project, you can take a 5-minute garden tour and then go inside to the Frank Center and have a little food of whatever we have and be in the air conditioning. Who knows what the weather is that day, but I did meet Miss Heidi, and she's a darling. She's so precious. And I remember trying to get y'all back, and you were saying, well, we're getting ready for a wedding and our daughter in the yard and this and that. So now we're reconnected, and I am thrilled. So the next item is about our transportation coming through the Grove neighborhood, which has been quite a number of hours that many of us have served on. Again, there's people that live there much longer than I, but it is a sweet neighborhood, and we're good to one another, and we're very tolerant, and we invite you to visit. And once we get the money and the plan in place, which will take some time, and you got to go fishing for the money, and we know all these, and there will be delays. We will be quite a beautiful community, especially with the lighting. We need that lighting, and we need the safety factors. I don't know fully what the proposal will be, but if we could get a stoplight between the Dollar General and the 7-Eleven and going in and out of Country Village, that would be marvelous. But again, this plan, which is here to appeal to you to think about, has more bus stops and bus shelters and things like that, and it did involve the community being involved, and I know I personally, between 2 visits, put out a total of about 500 door hangers. So again, we have people interested in the community, and yet everybody is not quite as vocal. And so I thank you for letting me speak, but do see the garden. Do think about coming to the Board of Directors meeting, and do consider with what funds can come up for the Grove neighborhood with our transportation committee. We have 7% of a population that does not drive. I'm one of them. I do have a bicycle. It's not always safe, and we do need the lighting and the attention of the county, and I don't know what percent of the tax base that we give, but it's quite a piece when you include Kings Mill, Busch Gardens, the brewery, the park, and this and that and the other. And we're way out there that sometimes I say I live in Grove, and they say, where is that? So again, y'all know where it is, and y'all care. I just ask you to keep caring and get in there and know some of those people, because there's quite a family feel there where people help and, again, will tolerate and be good to one another. And you don't necessarily be in another neighborhood and they'll give you $1 for the bus. Do you understand? There's some special things there. And my friend Mr. Jacobs here with the paper is going to start doing some articles on that and mention the fact, and I am leaving, that it's not all just a needy food desert, et cetera, et cetera. There are good people there. We're going to start featuring them. Y'all know the name Abram Frink and others, and many that have been there, 20, 30 years longer than I. We're going to start getting those articles out, but do come visit and do pay attention to us. Thank you, sirs and ma'am. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Till. Okay, our next speaker is Thomas McCormick, Jr.
Here to address the board about the Pocahontas Trail Corridor study. I delivered the mail out in Grove from 1980 to 2009. Then I opened the Grove Community Church and the Grove Christian Outreach Center in 2000. And I was on the steering committee, and I have seen the video for what the project might look like in Grove. This is a good project. and I think it's a really needed project. And my hope is not only will you approve this project, but you get it done as soon as possible. And I appreciate you guys' consideration and your help for what you can do out in Grove. And I just want to thank you guys for addressing the problems and the situation out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. And since I'm sitting as an interim chair, I failed to remind folks that we do need your home address. So for Mr. Everson, it's 103 Branscombe Boulevard. For Mr. Till, it's 8810 Pocahontas Trail, number 21. And for Mr. McCormick, it's 1634 Skiffs Creek Circle. We have one more. Ms. Julie Smith, I believe, would like to introduce herself.
Gentlemen, ladies, it's nice to be here. My name is Julie Smith. I live at 704 Jamestown Road in the city of Williamsburg, but I'm a staff member, a new staff member in the office of Congressman Scott Taylor, Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, and I apologize. I joined the staff in February, and I had intended to make it to a meeting before now, but I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that I do 40% of my work is outreach into the community, and the other 60% I do constituent service work. So I assist constituents in the 2nd Congressional District with issues regarding Medicare, Social Security, FEMA, the Department of Treasury, Mr. Everson, I could have helped you, and the Department of Justice. So I just want to let people know that I am here. I'm a native of the peninsula. I've been away many years and have come back, joined the Congressman's staff in February, but we are a resource. We have a peninsula office, and I'm happy to be of help in any way I can. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Okay. That's all the cards for public comment. Our next item on the agenda is presentations, and I believe Mr. Zach Trogdon, Executive Director of WATA, is going to make a presentation for us.
I think I was elected as a substitute, if that's all right.
That's going around.
I was not allowed to vote, evidently, but good afternoon or evening, I guess now, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors and Mr. Administrator. Today I come as the chair of the WATA Board, and we're in my final days as chair, which I'm excited about. Doug was the chair when I came to Williamsburg, and he very quickly said, "You're going to be the next chair in about 2 weeks," so it was great. You know, it's exciting because Doug has been on the WATA board since its formation. And so it's sad that we're losing a founding member, and it's sad that we're losing that knowledge, but we're really fortunate that we've had him for as long as we have. So thank you for sharing him with us at WATA. I know that we can't replace him, but hopefully he will pass on the keys and the knowledge that we need to keep going on. Now, if you'll indulge me a minute, I would like to read a resolution of appreciation that the WATA board passed its last meeting, which Mr. Powell decided not to attend. So. This is his punishment. Is that all right, Mr. Vice Chair?
Please proceed.
Whereas Mr. M. Douglas Powell served as an inaugural member of the Williamsburg Area Transit Authority Board of Directors representing James City County since its initial establishment in August of 2008, and whereas Mr. Powell has provided astute leadership and guidance during the organization's initial year of operation, as well as subsequent terms as chair or vice chair, and whereas prior to the establishment of WATA, Mr. Powell was responsible for directing operations of James City County Transit and Williamsburg Area Transport to provide public transportation in the Williamsburg area, and whereas Mr. Powell has demonstrated the highest level of dedication, professionalism, and wisdom in fulfilling his duties as a board member and in his representation of the interest of James City County and the staff and ridership of WATA system. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Williamsburg Area Transit Authority hereby recognizes and honors Mr. M. Douglas Powell. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors of Williamsburg Area Transit Authority adopts this resolution as a tribute to the contributions of Mr. M. Douglas Powell to WATA and to the citizens of the greater Williamsburg area who benefit from safe and reliable public transit, and the Board extends its best wishes to him in his future endeavors. And, of course, it was approved unanimously. So, thanks, Doug.
I want to say thank you very much. That's way more credit than I deserve. It's been a privilege to have worked with WATA for so many years. It's very rewarding to me to think about when I first came here. We actually reduced transit service to the point that it was running 3 hours in the morning and 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon. That's what WATA was about 20 years ago, before it was even WATA. The growth and the increase in service and the improvements that have occurred since then, it's been a rewarding experience. And I would certainly be remiss if I didn't talk, though, about how many other people contributed to that. One of the fun things about working with WATA for so long has been the regional nature of the operation. It's been an amazingly little conflict among a very diverse group when you think about the 3 localities, William and Mary and Colonial Williamsburg, and the partnership that was formed, and how well the partners have all worked together over the years. I did not realize that so many of the folks from WATA were going to be here. Thank you for giving up your after hours time to be here. And I shouldn't have missed that last meeting, but thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. Tonight's consent calendar consists of number 1, minutes adoption. Number 2, establishment of a petty cash fund for the police. Number 3, grant award, Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund grant for $6,000. Number 4, resolution of support for smart scale transportation funding applications. Number 5, tourism contingency transfer request for supplemental funding to the Williamsburg Area Destination Marketing Committee. And number 6, resolution of the Board of Supervisors of James City County, Virginia, declaring its intention to reimburse itself from the proceeds of one or more financings for certain costs of capital improvements. Okay, if no one wishes to pull an item.
Move the adoption of the consent calendar.
Mr. Porter, call the roll.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. And we now move to our public hearings. And I'd like to recognize this evening that our Planning Commission representative in attendance is Ms. Julia Leverance. Thank you for attending. Our first public hearing is an amendment to the County Code Section 20-14, Transient Lodging Tax Levied. And I believe Ms. Liz Parma is going to give the staff presentation.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Before you is an ordinance to amend Section 20-14, Transient Lodging Tax of the County Code of Ordinances to comply with the newly amended Virginia Code Section 58.1-3823. This code section now directs that 50% of the revenues from the $2 a night lodging tax are retained by the county, and 50% of the revenues are deposited into the Historic Triangle Marketing Fund. Previously, 100% of the revenues were designated for the Williamsburg Area Destination Marketing Committee for advertising. Staff recommends approval of the ordinance so that the county code will comply with the Code of Virginia. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
So just so that everybody's aware of what's happening in this particular instance, originally the Senate Bill 942 would have eliminated this tax, and while there was a lot of disagreement about the value of 942, the governor amended the proposal to exempt groceries from the increased sales tax and restored this tax and provided for it to be split between the localities and the tourism advertising fund. Is that right?
Yes, you're correct. And you probably know more about the machinations of a Senate bill than I do, but yes.
Well, I'm glad we at least got that little victory there. That's all I had.
Ready? No other questions for staff? All right, I'll open the public hearing. This time, do we have any speakers? Seeing no speakers, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll look to the board for a resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the amendment to the county code.
Call the roll.
Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan? Aye. Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next, we have SUP 0004-2018, 3021 Ironbound Road Tourist Home. Ms. Tori Haynes will give staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. Ms. Sharon Dennis has applied for a special use permit to operate a tourist home out of 3021 Ironbound Road. The tourist home SUP will allow for the short-term rental of a 2-bedroom home with no changes to the size or footprint of the home. The property is zoned R8, rural residential, is designated low-density residential in the comprehensive plan, and is inside the primary service area, as are all surrounding parcels. Staff considered the home's location, parking provisions, and screening all to be favorable factors in the evaluation of this application. The property has an existing driveway and parking area sufficient to accommodate guests and is screened from neighboring properties through fencing and vegetation. The property is also directly adjacent to a tourist home of similar size and scope, whose SUP was approved by the Board of Supervisors on January 9th, 2018. Staff is recommending conditions which are intended to mitigate the impacts of the use and preserve the residential character of the home. Such conditions include limitations on the number of rooms rented and total number of rental occupants per stay. Staff finds the proposal to be compatible with the 2035 Comprehensive Plan, zoning ordinance, and surrounding development, and recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve this application subject to the conditions in tonight's packet. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also available.
Any questions for you?
I did have one question, and I apologize for not having looked this up myself, but there's reference made to the fact that there's an adjacent tourist home that is owned by the same applicant.
No, an adjacent tourist home next door, different applicant.
Different applicant.
But was approved in January.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I would like to thank Mr. Kinsman for answering a question I had earlier, that this apparently had an SUP, existing SUP for a daycare center, and he confirmed for me that this new SUP will allow this operation, but the old one is still active, and it could be reverted to a daycare center at the applicant's desire. So there will be 2 outstanding SUPs on this if this is approved. Any other questions for staff? Does the applicant wish to speak anything? I think we have, Ms. Leverance, did you want to give us the Planning Commission's considerations on this?
Eisenhower, members of the board, thank you for inviting me to speak on this. The Planning Commission at its June meeting had no objections to this. We had no comments during the public hearing. We did not see that there was any reason to express any concerns about this and passed it unanimously for your approval.
Okay. If no questions for staff or Planning Commission, I'll open the public hearing. Are there any speakers for this? None? We'll close the public hearing. And
so, Mr. Chairman, I had just 2 quick things. First, could I just ask Ms. Haynes, was this your first presentation to the board? Congratulations. Good job. and the other thing is that I did want to make a kind of just general observation about these applications for tourist homes, and suggest I have a little bit of a reservation. Not in this particular, I won't oppose this application, but I do want us to be very careful about this for 2 reasons. One is that as we begin to see a collection of such tourist homes adjacent to neighborhoods that are not on relatively major roads, there is going to be pressure to allow them in those neighborhoods as well, I think. But additionally, we're in the middle of a process of examining the availability of affordable housing, and we do have a lot of tourism facilities in the community, a lot of hotels, motels, beds and breakfasts, timeshares, and the like. And when we see too much growth and competition with this form of overnight transient occupancy, it really puts us in competition with ourselves in some ways because of the need to preserve housing stock that may be more affordable. So I just think we need to be very careful about how we move in this direction. That's it.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the board? I look to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve. Mr. Porter, call the roll.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. And our third public hearing for the evening is AFD 0486-1-2017, Pate's Neck Renewal. Ms. Roberta Soloff will give the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. As required by state code, the county must review all established AFDs prior to their expiration. During this review, districts must be continued, modified, or terminated. The Pate's Neck AFD is scheduled to expire on August 14th of this year, and as such, staff is recommending the board approve its renewal. The district was originally created in 1986 and currently consists of 4 properties totaling approximately 755 acres, all of which is zoned A1 general agricultural and designated rural lands by the adopted comprehensive plan. There have been no requests to add or withdraw land since initiating the renewal process at the end of 2017. While this district has been renewed most recently for 6-year intervals, staff is recommending a 4-year renewal period to bring this district more in step with the renewal periods of most other districts. Staff finds the Pate's Neck AFD compatible with the requirements of state code and surrounding development, as well as consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. Staff recommends that the board approve the renewal of this AFD for a period of 4 years, 2 months, and 17 days to October 31st, 2022, subject to the attached conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and there is no applicant for this, which is what I usually say at the end.
Any questions for the staff member? Okay. Ms. Leverance, if you'd like to make any comments on this one from the Planning Commission?
Planning Commission at its June meeting also considered this. We did not see any reason to oppose it. We were delighted to see that the staff is recommending pulling all of the AFD applications together so that they could be considered at one time. That makes a lot of sense to be able to see what makes sense for the county. So we just don't. We recommended it unanimously for your approval.
Thank you. And I'll note that I think staff has been attempting to get everything on the same schedule for about 12 years. It's a little like herding cats, but I think we're getting very close to getting all of them renewed at the same time in the future. Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Are there any speakers to this? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and look to the board for it.
So I had 3 questions that I submitted last night to staff, and for the board's consideration in terms of policy issues. The first one was one that Mr. Kinsman answered for us. I'd asked whether this consolidation of the AFDs was being done primarily for administrative convenience, and the answer was yes. And I think that's that's a reasonably good reason, a good explanation. We save money on advertising. It doesn't result in these things popping up at various times and all that's to the good. So I understand the value of that. But the second question was really about the length of the AFDs. And we are, in this case, moving toward a standardization of 4-year AFDs. This had previously been 6-year AFDs and even one 8-year AFD renewal. And my preference would be to take the outer limit of the state code provision as opposed to the shortest time frame. 4 years is the smallest time period for an AFD. 10 years is the longest. I guess my expectation would be that we'd be better served, and the landowner would be better served perhaps by moving in the direction of a longer AFD rather than a shorter 4-year one. Again, if we could encourage more of our AFDs to have that longer term, it would benefit administrative efficiency even more. We'd be dealing with these cases much less frequently. So just ask that the board think about this and maybe consider whether we want to weigh in on encouraging people to take longer time periods if they want. If they don't want to do that, that's another matter. But if they're willing to do a 6 or 8 or 10-year AFD renewal, I think that's something that would be beneficial. And then the third point that I'd asked about was in terms of, there was a mention made that about half a majority of the property in this particular AFD is under conservation easement, which made me wonder about the value of the AFD in that case. If there's a conservation easement on it, shouldn't that already reflect the land use that's in place or permitted by the conservation easement? And that was more a curiosity than anything else, but just a question of what benefit is there really to the landowner in this particular case? So I don't know if you have the answer to that last one, Ms. Suloff. You're a good William Mary graduate. You can answer anything, right?
Thank you. A former student, yes. And a late-breaking email has hit your inbox, which I think will have a longer version of this.
Okay.
The short answer is the AFD program, the conservation easement, and the land value taxation are all overlapping programs with similar purposes, but ultimately different in distinguished purposes and requirements for participation. In this case, while it was mentioned at the meeting that they may be participating in conservation easement, staff did further research, and that was discussed by the members of the committee. Staff did further research and could not verify that any of the land in that case is actually in conservation easement.
Okay.
But being in an AFD does provide additional protections to your land. One such being there's an additional protection in cases of eminent domain where there's more work to go through for your land to be considered in that process. Another is that it also protects landowners against nuisance ordinances that may affect their ability to operate in agricultural capacity. So that's not normally covered by the conservation easement program or the land value taxation.
Great answer. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And then the other matter is really more of a board matter, unless there's any reason for staff or for planning staff or for the county attorney to suggest that 4 years is better than a longer period?
I would offer, I would like to ask maybe staff to weigh in on it, because I sat on the AFD committee at one time earlier, and I know that there were some landowners preferred the shorter term, some preferred the longer, and if we're moving toward a consolidated term, my question, I guess, of staff would be, how easy or difficult do you think it might be to achieve a minimum term, let's say 6 or 8 years, from everybody? Or are you going to have somebody who's going to object? And I guess the alternative, if they didn't want to do whatever we said the minimum would be, they would pull out of the AFD program. So, I think that sort of tempers our decision as to what is feasible or doable, and still maintain what we have, because we have a lot of land covered in these AFDs now. So,
for this case, in the immediate present, to change the term would mean to re-advertise, because we advertise with the current term. There was a survey done of all the landowners in 2006, and the landowners, there wasn't an overwhelming support for voluntary change, lengthening of terms. In fact, there was some indication from landowners that it may result in significant withdrawal of land at that time. So there has been no indication from landowners that they wanted to pursue a longer renewal periods. Staff didn't receive any direction to pursue it with landowners, and so it wasn't advertised. So the process would then be reaching out to the landowners in each AFD, gaining consensus. We would have to have consensus from all landowners, and then advertising it and renewing it for that period.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting in this case we won't want to make a change. Obviously, this has gone far enough down the path. We don't want to mess up with that. But it does seem to me in the future we might think about something like a 4 or 8 year to encourage people to take an 8 year, because then they would still be on the same cycle. They'd just miss one renewal each time.
Suggesting they could have choice of one or the other?
Yeah,
yeah. I think that with this one tonight, it puts us all on the same schedule, so that when we come back for all of them, we would have that opportunity to have the board between now and then determine which approach. And I like the idea of 4 or 8, because it keeps everybody on the same cycle. It's just maybe some of them a little more frequently.
As long as that choice was remained available to them.
I think having a choice probably makes the program more attractive to a lot of the folks in the community. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay.
And that being the
All
case,
right.
I'd be happy to move the...
I've got public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm remembering this time.
No,
Got to open the public hearing. Any speakers? None? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Now we'll ask for the resolution.
All right, now I'll do the AFD 04. I can't read that next one.
8661.
2017 Pace Neck Farm Renewal.
Okay. Mr. Porter, if you'll take the roll.
Mr. Glennon?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Okay. We now move on to board considerations, and our first one is going to be James City County Child Health Initiative Grant Award, $250,000, and I believe Ms. Rebecca Vendrud is going to speak to us tonight.
Yes. Hello, good evening, Mr. Eisenhower, members of the board. I'm here tonight to talk about the Child Health Initiative Grant. This is a program that is being funded by the Williamsburg Health Foundation in the amount of $250,000. The intent of the program is to improve health outcomes for children and families in the James City County area. This is a program that we were invited as a locality to participate in. The City of Williamsburg has been doing this program for 3 years. So they have seen positive outcomes, and we expect to see positive outcomes as well for the families that we are serving. The $250,000 would include the creation of 3 new positions, a care team coordinator. The program is known as the working title is the care team. So there'd be a care team coordinator. There would be a social work case manager and a nurse case manager to really focus on the health outcomes for the participants. So these positions would be limited. This is an annual grant that will be renewable potentially. So these would be limited positions, but with full benefits. So the request is to approve the acceptance of the award for $250,000 as well as the creation of 3 new positions.
Any questions for staff?
It's a great opportunity for us, and appreciate the involvement of the Williamsburg Health Foundation in this. Apparently the city's been doing this for several years now and has had good success with it.
Yes, the partnership, it's the City of Williamsburg Human Services as well as Child Development Resources and the Williamsburg James City County Public Schools. When we started with the planning a year ago, we asked to include Old Town Medical and Dental Center. So they are now an additional partner with this program. And actually our staff would be housed in the Old Town Medical Dental Center side of our Human Services building. So there'd be a lot of collaboration with that program as well.
All righty. If there are no other questions for staff, any other discussion from the board?
For the adoption of the grant award.
Okay, Mr. Porter, call the roll, please.
Mr. Hipp?
Aye.
Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Glennon?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Next on the board consideration is contract award request for replacement voting equipment for $285,571, and Ms. Diana Mormon is here to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Vice Chairman and members of the board. I just wanted to kind of go over the machines and the replacement of the machines that we've got in place. I just wanted to also point out that we do also have 2 members of our electoral board members here. Mr. Tomke is our chairman, and then also we have Kay Cheeves, who is our secretary. So if you have any questions, just please let me know. The machines that we currently have are outdated. We have not been able to acquire new machines for the past 2 years, and with that, all of those parts are being diminished as well. So I cannot confidently go into the presidential election, of which we're already planning for, with the machines that we currently have. There has been the question of, can we replace the machines all at once, with part of them for part of the county, and then part we'll replace the next year. And I cannot go forward and say that it would be very good for us to go through with older machines and the newer machines and justify who was worthy of the new machines. So we do also, the machines are very physically large and hard to tackle. The bins that we have currently hold, depending on humidity in the room, they hold between 1,200 and 1,500 ballots at a time, and the new machines with their bins will hold 4,500. So that will allow us to have less stock on hand at all times, but we will have more than enough. We also need to have them well in place before the presidential election so that everybody can be used to that happening before we put them in place for the presidential election, just to negate any questions or conspiracy theories that we put the machines out there right for the presidential election. So at this time, I am requesting the new machines for the county. We did vet out, there are 4 machine companies that do offer machines for voting, 2 of which we immediately voted out and did not even consider. And the other 2, we did have presentations. On hand were the electoral board members, myself, my staff, James City County IT, I wanted them to be in the mix as well, as our machine technicians, our officers of election, and well, it's a chosen few, and then also the machine technicians that we have on the county on hand. So we had a very large staff, and it was unanimous with one abstaining, who is no longer, it was Jack Edwards, who's no longer on the board. He abstained because he's not going to be on the board, or was not on the board for this vote. So with that, I request the machines.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms.
Moore? You answered a question for me earlier, and I appreciate that. I just want to publicly note that these will continue to have scanned paper ballots that will be available for inspection should any issue arise.
Absolutely. These machines will be capable of having that paper trail. They will be optical scan ballots. The only thing that will change is the actual vendor that prints the ballots, and they will be in accordance with the ballot standards that have been established by the State Board of Elections. So those will be the exact same ballots, and it's not going to be even a different layout than what we currently have. So the only thing that voters will notice is actually putting it into a different machine. And at no time will they be connected to the internet or to telephones.
Or the Russian embassy. Or the Russian embassy.
Okay.
On tonight,
any other questions for Ms. Mormon? Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chin, Ms. Chiefs, for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Helping get this shepherded along. Okay, we'll look to the board for discussion or motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Board call roll.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. We are now to board consideration number 3, contract award, Warhill Sports Complex artificial turf repair, replacement, and maintenance service, $2,943,737. Mr. Carnifax.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. I guess it's time to, we've saved costs for the last 11 years on cutting grass and irrigation and chemicals, and this was the time we talked about back in 2007 that we would have to turn around and write the larger than normal check. So I think over the years when we first constructed the park, we didn't design it or build it to serve for sports tourism, but that's been one of the significant benefits of moving to synthetic turf, other than the environmental impact and less maintenance. And so annually, I can say that you, through our tourism, sports tourism, and our tournaments, you're recovering, our local businesses are recovering about this amount annually just on the number of tournaments. So I just want people to recognize that this is a large number, but it also is returned back to the community because of the sports tourism. And so I think that's a significant part. Had we not put in synthetic turf, a lot of these tournaments would not take place in James City County. Many of them, because of the weather, we've had to cancel the grass fields and just limit the number of teams. So I think it's nice that we can add that, and it's nice that we can provide some tourism money back to the community. But you've got before you a memo and a resolution. We had a team of county employees that reviewed these proposals and selected Field Turf. Field Turf is the company that supplied us the first 6 synthetic multi-use fields. They did not do the stadium. It was another company, Progress. They are no longer in existence. We've been happy with Field Turf. They had an 8-year warranty. We've gotten 11 out of it. Unlike, I think you might have recent article, there were some fields that had some problems with Field Turf. We had none. We were satisfied with the way they responded to any issues. The turf exceeded the standard expectations. Like I said, there was an 8-year warranty. This new product, they're giving us a 10-year warranty. We feel good about that. It's a very similar product to what they've installed at William & Mary. It's a different filament, different fiber. Same rubber that's in there will be on our fields. This filament that we're using is for more usage, and we get more usage than the stadium at William & Mary. We get 7 days a week on those synthetic turf fields, at least 10 months out of the year. So we went with a different product that you can get the 10-year warranty. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have at this time, but I recommend that you approve the attached resolution. Thank you.
Questions?
What kind of sports do you attract to these fields?
The largest tournament, well, it serves all of our local citizens, but the large tournaments right now are soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey. Those are the big three. We do a little bit of football, but those are the largest number of teams that show up for these tournaments. And just today I got a call from a ex-NFL player, and he wants to bring a youth flag football tournament here in August, so we're going to look at that. But yeah, I think the fields are popular and well used by our residents and visitors.
Thank you.
Ready? Any other board discussion? For a motion? Motion. Motion to approve. Okay, Mr. Porter, please call the roll.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our fourth one is the Fort Eustis Joint Land Use Study. Ms. Cook's going to give the presentation, but before we start, I wanted to acknowledge that we have some folks in the audience, I believe, here from Fort Eustis. We have Colonel Jennifer Walkowitz, who is new mission commander support group for the base. I believe we have Mr. Colonel Keith Morrow, deputy commander for the mission support group, Pandora Howell, and Harry McCord. Is that correct? Thank you all for attending. And Ms. Cook, if you would start the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. Over the past 2 years, work has progressed on creating the Fort Eustis Joint Land Use Study, or JLUS. The JLUS has been a collaborative study conducted by the 3 surrounding localities, federal officials, residents, and Fort Eustis to identify compatible land uses and growth management guidelines near the installation. The JLUS has been guided by a policy committee and a technical working group and has included significant outreach and input opportunities from the public. At the May 2018 Commission and Board joint work session, the project's lead consultant, Mr. Ray Greer, provided an overview of the study and recommendations, several of which were also highlighted in the staff memo, including recommendations regarding formalized communication, land use compatibility, policy reinforcement, and the third port mission. As described in the recommendations, implementation of the JLUS could range from administrative actions to revisions or updates in the county zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan. In addition to the members of Joint Base Langley Eustis that are here with us tonight, staff would like to thank Newport News for administering the JLUS, and particularly Britta Ayers as the project manager, who is present this evening. At its meeting on June 6, 2018, the Planning Commission recommended adoption of the study by a vote of 6-0. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors adopt the Fort Eustis Joint Land Use Study, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Get many questions from Ms.
I don't have any questions, but having served on the study as board representative, I just wanted to express my appreciation to Fort Eustis and its leadership, and to the Department of Defense and Mr. Greer, the consultant, for being such active seekers of information and ideas and suggestions, really be good neighbors and partners in this whole process. I think it went exceptionally well, and we've got a nice roadmap and clear understanding of how we need to communicate with each other about issues that may affect one another. So appreciate that very much.
Okay.
With that, I'll move the adoption of resolution in support of the land use study.
Mr. Porter?
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Hibbel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. And our final board consideration, number 5, is Pocahontas Trail Corridor Study. And I have, my script is obviously off. But I had Ms. Rosario, but you're coming.
No worries. Mr. Brew.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. For the past 10 months, the Planning Division, VDOT, and its consultant, RK&K, have been engaging with the Grove community to reassess the transportation needs, desired improvements, and priorities for the Pocahontas Trail Corridor study. The purpose of the study was to reassess the corridor from Fire Station 2 to James River Elementary School and to engage the community in identifying key transportation needs and in defining a vision for the future of the corridor. This effort would not have been possible without the support of the technical committee and steering committee, many of whom are in attendance tonight. To gain the community's input, 3 public workshops, 6 steering committee meetings, and 6 technical committee meetings, as well as several other opportunities, were held in different areas throughout Grove for public input. The public workshops and meetings provide tremendous feedback and direction to staff, VDOT, and the consultant, which have been reflected in the draft study document where the recommendations are outlined. In terms of the recommendations, Concept 1, the 3-lane concept in front of you with a shared use path on one side and the sidewalk on the other, was the preferred option. The recommended improvements also include curb and gutter to improve the drainage system, a landscape buffer area between the roadway and the sidewalk and shared use path, continuous roadway and pedestrian lighting, new crosswalks with pedestrian refuges at multiple locations, transit stop improvements, including bus pull-offs and shelters, and the undergrounding of overhead utilities. These recommendations are a comprehensive set of improvements which address each of the needs identified by the community and which the community desired best matched its version of the Pocahontas Trail Corridor. Due to the scale of the improvements needed to address the corridor's needs and match the community's vision, the study also recommends consideration of a phased approach to constructing the improvements. While the county may pursue funding for the entire length of the corridor as one project, in an effort to secure funding, it may also be prudent to submit individual project segments or groups of segments for funding consideration should they be competitive for other various funding sources. The draft Pocahontas Trail Corridor study document was provided as an attachment to your packet. In anticipation of several funding applications due this summer, a resolution of support is required from the Board of Supervisors to submit the applications. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors adopt the Pocahontas Trail Corridor study, and at the June 6 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend adoption of the study. Jeff Kudish, the consultant from RK&K, Mr. Holt, Ms. Rosario, and I are available for questions you may have at this time. Thank you very much.
Questions or comments from the...
Some comments, but I would, excuse me for speaking out a little bit frequently tonight. I do want to extend my appreciation as well to the groups that worked on this project over the last couple of years. I've attended many meetings over this project and know that it really has engaged the community, that people recognize that this improvement in the road and its accessory utilities will be transformational. It will really improve the character of the area and make it safer, more appealing, address traffic congestion and the like. And I just am very excited about seeing this move forward. And I agree entirely with Pastor McCormick that we need to move as quickly as we can to secure that funding. Thank you, Mr. Hipple. I know you'll be working hard on that, and Mr. Holt and others. But I'm very excited about this project, and especially since we had the opportunity to see that wonderful film that was put together, the animation that showed what the impact would actually be. So, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I was also very impressed with that work session film. It brought home the level of participation in the community and the quality improvements that will be made by this. And I can't help but think of the many times that I sat here and listened to Mr. Ed Oyer talk to us about Route 60, and in his honor, I would like to let him know that he's finally had the desired effect. So,
and I very much like to move adoption of this corridor study.
Order. Mr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. McGlinnan?
Aye.
Mr. Hipple? Aye. Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. All righty. We are down to board requests and directives.
So I'll be real quick about this and just say that I wanted to, say, it's been a busy time for us as always, but I did want to draw attention to two events. Will Barnes Day, which our Clean County Commission puts together every year in honor of Will Barnes, a veteran member of that committee who passed away a couple of years ago. Was a great success, had lots of folks out for it, and beautiful weather as opposed to last year where we had just an enormous downpour right as the food was being served. And our 3 high school graduations, which were just wonderful events, great celebration of the achievements of hundreds of our young people, and I was very pleased to be able to attend those graduation ceremonies and let folks know that their community supports them in their future efforts. Thank you.
Well, I attended a Community Action Agency Board of Directors meeting, and they are actively fundraising. And I told them, I promised them, I would announce this, that in July, it's $7 steak dinner night at Baker's Crust in Newtown. On Mondays, if you purchase this, then part of the proceeds will go to the Community Action Agency. So I would love for everyone to see you out there on Monday nights and purchase your steak dinner. $7 steak dinner, can't beat that. I can't cook it at home for that now. So anyway, it would go to benefit a great cause, and would love to see everyone out there. Also, did want to report that Chairman Larson and I attended a meeting in New Kent County and met with their board chair, with their county administrator, and with their director of planning to talk about the combat range that they're proposing to put in New Kent County, because it does affect especially folks at my end of the county and Toano, and we are actively monitoring what's going on. And so we met with them, and I did attend the Warhill graduation. It was an honor to be there, and it was very, very moving experience listening to some of the young people that graduated and what they had to say. It was amazing. And also, I could say this during JCSA, but I did want to just make sure before everybody left that I had some concerns about speeding out on Racefield Drive, to which our police chief is going to be looking into. But one of the things that the citizen did state was how wonderful the JCSA drivers are with their speed, their safety, and how much the citizens out there appreciate that. So I did want to make sure, a lot of times during our meetings, people aren't here. So I wanted to make sure everybody give a shout out to our JCSA drivers. They're doing a great job, and they're very much appreciated in the county. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission elected me chair for another year, so we'll get some. Thank you. We'll get some road projects. Try our best to get some moving forward. And
great. So we're going to have the money for the Powhatan trail by the end of the year. Great. Good.
Our roads will be wonderful.
In the mail. That's right. And that's all I have.
Hey. I also attended the Will Barnes picnic, and it was a gorgeous afternoon. A great group. I was able to attend one of the high school graduations, and I echo it's a phenomenal event to attend. Always happy to do that. One of the things that I was involved in, one of my committees, is the Peninsula Council for Workforce Development, and we've been undergoing an extensive reorganization and broadening into cooperation on a regional basis with Opportunity Inc. on the south side, trying to make our workforce development a little more meaningful in connecting employers and people who need jobs. And at our last meeting, we had a very interesting Virginia Career Works branding marketing thing that came out from the state Workforce Development Board that we will be utilizing in the local area here. And I only have one copy, so I'll pass it around. But you can take a look at it, and it's we're making some significant progress in getting our program on a more regional basis and a more cooperative basis, so we can get better results. The other thing I would like to do is I'd like to extend my thanks to our police and fire for their joint response with the city of Williamsburg to the helicopter accident. It hit a little close to home. My daughter lived in the adjacent building, and I'm very proud of how that people in that community came in and helped everybody out of that building. You know, as a 38 years in aviation, I've witnessed many accidents and seen many scenes. And when I saw that film, I was just terribly afraid we were going to have massive casualties. And the fact that we only lost 2 people, sad as that is just a phenomenal thing. And I think it goes to the community spirit of people going in there and getting everybody else out of that building in a timely manner. We did lose Jean Danielko, who is a lady who was our Friday receptionist at the lounge. She's been a receptionist, I think, for 3 or 4 years at our rec center and a member of that group over there since about 2006. We remember her for her energetic involvement in our community, and we extend our condolences to her family and friends. She will be sorely missed. Next, we have reports to the county administrator.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to tell the public that that we closed one lane on Jolly Pond Road over the dam, where the bridge is on either side of the bridge. On July the 5th, during a routine inspection, we found a void on the portion of the road. We're having engineer and contractor look at how to repair that and are getting in touch with the owner of the dam. The county only has the road itself for permission to repair it. We hope to have some option by the end of this week and some idea of how long that will take. We've also put on social media the closing of the one lane and have notified a number of companies that we know that have trucks, heavy trucks that pass that way, and asked them not to do it, and have also informed the schools to please not send school buses across the dam. The second is tomorrow night, we have a neighborhood forum that'll be at the County Recreation Center at 5301 Long Hill Road. Chief Brad Reimheimer from the James City County Police Department will be the featured speaker, and everybody's encouraged to come out and attend and bring a friend with you. Also, the Clean Water Grant open for applications now. The James City County Stormwater and Resource Protection has opened a Clean Water Heritage Grant to applicants. The grants provide a cost share funding for homeowners association, communities, contractors, businesses, and individuals who own stormwater infrastructure that need funding to maintain it. The grant categories include inventory and inspection, repair and maintenance, and BMP repair and maintenance. You can complete and submit a grant application. It's a PDF form by September the 28th, 2018. The applications may be submitted through email or printed or handed in to the office. For more information, you can call John Fuqua. And the county, his number is 757-253-6785. And then at the close of business today, request the board to recess until 7:45 a.m. Friday, July the 13th at the Law Enforcement Center, which is at 4600 Opportunity Way.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Porter. We have an appointment that calls for a closed session, and I believe the board is in agreement we can do that in open session.
Yes.
Okay. This would be an appointment of individuals to county boards and commissions. We have 2 vacancies, one a reappointment and one a vacancy for the Colonial Behavioral Health Board of Directors. And I have the information. If you would like me to make the motion, I'll be glad to do that. This would be moving to appoint Teresa Kristen to be appointed to the Colonial Behavioral Health Board beginning immediately and expiring on June 30th, 2021. And Ms. Sue Mellon, who is our staff appointee, to be reappointed for a 3-year term that would expire on June 30th, 2021. And I so move, and if board's fine.
Mr. Glennon?
Aye.
Mr. Hibble?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We are done with, except for our adjournment, but at this point, we want to go to the, we want to adjourn this one, or just go to the.
Recess this one.
Okay. Recess, and I'll pass it down for, there we go.
Called to order this meeting, the James City Service Authority Board of Directors regular meeting. Good evening, Mr. Powell again.
Good evening.
And call the roll.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Here.
Mr. Hippel. Here. Mr. Eisenhower. Here. Ms. Sadler.
Here. Oh, we're missing one. That's right. Any speakers for public comment? No? All right. Consent calendar. Minutes adoption, June 12th, 2018 meeting. Any discussion?
Move the approval of the consent calendar.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearings? Any public hearings tonight? We're
No,
good.
ma'am, no public hearings.
Board considerations, contract award, water meter register replacement series. Mr. Powell.
Madam Chair, members of the board, at your meeting last month, you approved a contract for the registers as part of the water meter replacement program. I mentioned at that time that I would be bringing forward a resolution to award a contract for the actual installation. Before you tonight is a resolution to award that contract to Professional Meters Incorporated at a price of $20 per meter. An RFP was issued for this project. 8 proposals were received. A team of staff from JCSA and purchasing evaluated the proposals and deemed Professional Meters Incorporated as the most qualified bidder. Staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Okay. Any questions, any discussion, or a motion?
Move the resolution.
Mr. Powell.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye. Next, we have the contract award, air ejector lift station replacement.
The CIP includes funding for the replacement of our last 4 older air ejector lift stations. All these stations are along the Jamestown Road corridor, and they are at the end of their useful life. Potential bidders were pre-qualified, and 3 of the qualified firms submitted bids. Waco Incorporated was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder. I would note that since your board packets went out, we did update the memo and the resolution today. We were able to negotiate a further reduction in the contract price. So the resolution that we're asking you to adopt tonight would award the final bid price to Waco Incorporated in the amount of $1,442,258. Staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Negotiation. Any questions, comments? Look for a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Powell.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye. Board requests and directives.
Mr. Powell, I understand that earlier this evening, the WATA Board of Directors honored you at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I just want to extend my congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was
Getting you on
a
all
little
levels
embarrassing.
tonight.
But thank
Congratulations. Anyone? We good? Okay. Update?
The only item I have is when you adjourn tonight, I would ask that, and I might lean on Mr. Kinsman here, I don't know if the right terminology is recess or continue, but your agenda says adjourn until the next month's regular meeting, but we have the work session 2 weeks from tonight on July 24th. So is it, I'm not sure if it's recess or continue.
Prefer continue.
Continue,
Yes.
Okay. So when you end the meeting tonight, I'd ask that you continue the meeting
Continue to
until
that
July
date.
24th.
Okay. And would you mind reminding everyone of our water off, odd, even
Sure.
days and times?
Sure.
Just for my benefit.
Sure.
please.
We do have an even odd system. Monday is the off day, so nobody waters on Monday. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, if your house number ends in an odd number, you water on Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. If your address ends in an even number, it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Okay. I'd like to remind everyone of
Sure.
this time of year. All right. Well, with that, I look for a recess.
So what the board will do is you'll continue this meeting to
Continue.
July 24th,
Continuation. All right.
2018 at 4 o'clock in this building.
A motion for that?
Yep.
All right. Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye. And we are in recess.
Continue.
We are recess.
Continue.
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 I
All right,
should have
thank you.
scratched that word out.
Yours will be the same, Mr. Eisenhower, be continue this meeting to 7/13/18, 7:45 a.m. at the Law Enforcement Center, which is
4600 Opportunity Way.
4600 Opportunity Way.
A motion for that?
Okay, we have a motion.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carried.